Hi, I'm Ed Smith. I'm a cook and a food writer, the author of Crave, and today I am going to be cooking lamb rump with spring veg and a yoghurt dressing and loads of herbs. Right, so it's quite a lot of elements to this dish, but it all comes together very easily and it's truly delicious. In my book Crave, one of the chapters in Crave is like 6 sections, one of which is fresh and fragrant. Flavours I think you crave when you want to feel happy, when you're already happy, when it's hot. Loads of reasons to want fresh and fragrant food, and the sort of fresh and fragrant in this is the yoghurt sauce. And this dressing, which is asparagus, blanched very, very quickly, big mint leaves, wild garlic, also blanched to take the edge off them, and then sort of a slightly acidic dressing vinaigrette with using Moscatel vinegar. And that really kind of brings this whole dish, which begins with savoury lamb, but makes it a very fresh and fragrant, verdant dish. And that's it, I'll get cooking. All right, so the first things to do, is slightly out of order, because these two things are done last, is to just quickly blanch some wild garlic and also asparagus, hot boiling water. That's what I mean by blanching. Do that with the garlic because when you have raw garlic, raw wild garlic is a delicious flavour, but you keep tasting it for like days. You're constantly burping it up, and I don't think that's great. So there's just a couple of seconds, 30 seconds in hot water. That's not really boiling, but it's fine. I'm not going to use the colander because I want to keep on using the same water for the rest of the cooking, so I can just pull them out of the water and let them sit until the end of our cooking process. English asparagus is like one of the best things. Got a relatively short season, sort of month and a half, 2 months. This year is shorter than usual. So if you see it, buy some, make most of it. And the best way to eat asparagus is just to boil it for 3 minutes and dip it in butter, in my opinion. But once you've done that with your first bunch of the year, there's plenty more you can do with it. And this one's a kind of, almost like an accompaniment part of a dressing. We're going to blanch it very quickly so it's still got a bit of bite, but it's taken a tiny bit of the raw edge off it. It's boiling now, so that's good. Like I said just then, if you want to cook asparagus normally, the spears, boiling water, 2 to 3 minutes depending on the thickness. Just want to blanch these for 30 to 60 seconds and we'll pull them out again using a slotted spoon this time, and that means that when they go into the vinaigrette it's not completely raw. It's kind of like a cooked dish vegetable, but still fresh and fragrant. So they are blanched-ish. They're definitely not completely cooked through, but they're going to sit in a vinaigrette. And then the last thing to do with this water is to cook our potatoes. Stick these potatoes on, they're nice and small, so probably 15 minutes, by the time they're cooked, everything's ready. Next thing to do, clean up your board, and we are going to cook this rump of lamb. This is about 350, 400 grams, so depending what you are cooking, who you're serving, it's a nice starter. Like you could easily have a summer's lunch for 4 people out of this, or a really hefty meal for 2. I'm going to cut it in half down here. What a lovely sharp knife. Actually, quite really was. And this is a really nice sort of portion size, and it means that once it's cooked, we can slice across the grain and have lovely slices of blushing pink lamb. Right, cold and also oven-proof frying pan. It doesn't matter if you haven't got an oven-proof one, but you could do your frying in a frying pan and then stick it on an oven tray in the oven. Lamb fat's really quite lovely and quite quick to render as well. I'm going to cook just one of them today. We can stick the rest in the fridge. Give it a good pinch of salt. And then basically we can ignore that for a bit while we make the rest of the meal come together. Into the pan once it's browned, and before it goes in the oven, we're going to add some radishes. Cooked radishes, quite a underrated thing. These ones, you can roast them quite nicely. You stick them in the oven for 10-15 minutes with some salt, various herbs. Tarragon's a great herb with radish. But in this instance, they're just going to sit and sort of languish in the juices with the of the lamb for 5 minutes in the oven. And they've kind of got like a warm salad thing going on. A bit softer, a bit mellow, but still fresh and fragrant. That'll do. I think the leaves as well, keeping the leaves on. Radish leaves are quite peppery, a little bit grassy, but always if they're still fresh, you should definitely use them in whatever you're doing. They'll wilt nicely like spinach, which we'll have from here, but we'll have it raw. So the potatoes are cooking, they'll be ready in about 10 minutes. The lamb's starting to brown, the fat's rendering. It's going to be on the hob for maximum 5 minutes. In the meantime, we can make the base for our dish and our dressing. Base is going to be this yogurt, smudge of yogurt, which keeps things really nice and fresh, but to make it more interesting, we want a little pinch of salt, zest, finely grated, of a lemon. And I'll add a squeeze of juice too, just helps to get that out. And so already this is kind of a flavoursome, tangy yogurt, but it's also not supposed to be pudding. So I'm going to add a bit of Parmesan into there as well, which ups the umami a bit, makes it savoury, and also just goes really well actually with the lamb and with asparagus too. Just getting a bit of colour on the lamb. Once it's had about 60 seconds on most of the sides, and before your fire alarm goes off, then add the radishes to the pan. Stick it in the oven. Right, so potatoes are nearly done. The lamb's going to come out of the oven now. It's had about 5-6 minutes having been browned. There's probably a 200 gram piece, and let's see, got a bit of a squidge to it, so I think we'll be okay. I'm going to let the meat rest on a plate, leave those radishes in the hot pan just to continue mellowing. Just pull it out. It's always a danger when you film stuff as to whether you should say this lamb is going to be beautifully blushing pink, because it might be, but it might be ruby red or it might be grey, but it'll be tasty, it'll be fine. No, this is going to be good. So let that rest for 5 minutes, the same sort of amount of time it's been in the oven. In the meantime, we're going to make a vinaigrette to add a freshness and a bit of life to the dish. Once it's all on, that is going to involve about a teaspoon of sugar, a couple of tablespoons worth of olive oil, a bit more. This, which is one of my most used condiments in the kitchen, Moscatel vinegar. Just got a bit more to it than a white wine vinegar. I'm doing that in about 1 to 3 quantity of oil. And actually kind of classic emulsified vinaigrette. Taste it. Tiny bit more oil. But instead of, it's not sort of going with salad leaves, we're going to have full-on leaves of mint in there, which I think herbs are always like an underrated ingredient. There's a lot to be said for throwing in not just as many fresh herbs as you want or can, but also kind of treating them like an ingredient rather than a seasoning. And in this instance, we're almost treating them like a salad leaf, because I'm not going to, apart from the couple of these very, very big ones, I'm going to leave them whole. Cut those ones up. We're going to add those to the vinaigrette, along with that asparagus that we blanched earlier. Give that a good toss, and we'll be able to spoon that over our lamb. All these flavours, the asparagus, the vinegar, the yoghurt, they're all absolutely classic kind of matches with a salty bit of lamb. And that's done. So we have yoghurt base, green asparagus and herbs that to go over the top in the vinaigrette. Got these warmed radishes in the pan, to which I'm going to finally add those wild garlic leaves from earlier. Just drake those in there. Just a little bit more warmth to them. They almost become a bit like spinach leaves. you know, when you wilt those down in the pan. Drain our potatoes. Depending how many, whether it's just you or 4 other people, or 6 people, 10 people, whoever you're cooking this for, you can plate this up as you like, but I'm going to serve the potatoes on the side very simply. You don't really need to do much of those, a bit of butter, a bit of oil. Just have that as a side dish. A good splodge of that yoghurt base, which was yoghurt, salt, Parmesan for a bit of umami, lemon zest and lemon juice. I'm not doing this to make it look all Great British Menu. I'm doing this so that you can scoop the meat up with a bit of yogurt on it rather than just a pile of it. It's going to be nice. We'll lay the meat on top. This is the moment, isn't it? Moment of truth. Always cut your meat across the grain so you can see the lines of the fibres of the meat here, but you want to be able to chew through it. Not going to lie, pretty happy. Nice and pink in the middle, brown at the edges. Again, this is getting a little bit fancy. You could just show everything in the middle of the table for people to help themselves, but I'm going to drape some of that softened wild garlic over the top. If, by the way, we're out of wild garlic season by the time you see this or make it, just add about half a clove of crushed garlic into the yoghurt base and you'll get the garlicky flavour. These radishes, really great colours with the radish coming on there with the pink. Might just taste one, if you don't mind. Something about cooked radishes which almost make them more juicy than they are to start with, the moisture comes out. And finally, it's mint and asparagus vinaigrette over the top. Like I said, the mint leaves are almost like an extra salad leaf rather than a little garnish. The asparagus was just very lightly blanched. And for me, this is a really excellent early spring, late spring, early summer, fresh and fragrant dish, which could be you on a weeknight if you're feeling fancy, or the weekend to show off to friends. So there you have it. This is lamb rump on a yoghurt base with spring herbs and asparagus vinaigrette, warm radishes, and it's fresh and fragrant. This is one of the chapters in my book Crave. Let us know if you make it, and see you next time.